So again, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Nikita Tolchinsky with Balance. We'll also have Sissy Yin today, and from Mayor of Housing, and also Josie Ramirez from Silicon Valley Bank. So if we can please move on to the next slide.
Podrán escuchar la interpretación de un idioma. Estamos ofreciendo interpretación al español. En breves instantes, en los controles de la reunión, en el seminario web, haga clic en interpretación al pie de la página, en el idioma que usted quiere escuchar, en este caso el español. Para escuchar solo el idioma interpretado, haga clic en silenciar el audio original. Nuevamente, en cuanto cantonés termine de decir lo mismo en cantonés, van a activar los canales como para que ustedes puedan seleccionar el idioma de preferencia en el globito al pie de la página. Muchísimas gracias. Jocelyn, please.
如果要收聽口譯嘅話咧，在會議講座網絡控制項目中咧，你點擊 Interpretation 口譯，按一下你想聽嘅語言。如果想聽口譯嘅時候，請你關閉咗原始音訊。Thank you.
Thank you. So we want to explain what Homeownership SF is and the other agencies. Homeownership SF is the umbrella nonprofit organization in San Francisco that works as a liaison between the Mayor of Housing and the counseling agencies that offer housing counseling. So as you can see on the screen there are 5 agencies that work in San Francisco to offer this education. And the 4 agencies are Asian Inc., Balance, Meta, LGBT Center, and SFHDC. So again, these are all San Francisco-based nonprofit counseling agencies that work with the Mayor of Housing in San Francisco under the umbrella of Homeownership SF. So we all work in partnership. Next slide, please. So this is my personal information. My name is Nikita Tolchinsky. I am a certified housing counselor. I work with Balance. Obviously, we're one of the 5 agencies. I've been with Balance for about 12 years, doing different type of housing, but my specialty is helping first-time home buyers offer education, to discuss different programs, to discuss budgeting, discuss qualifying and preparation for first-time home buyers. You see my contact information there, my phone number, and our website. And as far as our agency goes, we offer home ownership counseling, not only for first-time home buyers, but folks who already own properties, folks that are considering to become a home buyer, also rental counseling for folks that want to take advantage of any rental opportunities here in San Francisco, and debt and budget counseling, credit report review, student loan counseling. So as you can see, we have a varied variety of education and counseling that we offer at Balance. So you can contact us and let us know if any of these topics interest you to discuss. And we have counselors that are now meeting in person and by phone as well. Next slide, please. So at this point, we do want to introduce Sissy Chen from Mayor of Housing. Sissy.
Thank you, Nick. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here to learn about San Francisco below market rate programs for homeownership opportunities. My name is Sissy Yin. I'm the BMR Homeownership Program Manager at Mayor's Office for Housing and Community Development. In the next few slides, I'm going to go over what the program is about, what are the key requirements and the restrictions under the program, and how does the lottery work. So first, let's look at what is a below market rate unit? A BMR unit is a home that priced to be affordable to families and individuals of lower income communities. As the name implies, the BMR price is lower than the prices of similar homes that are being sold on the open market. Our BMR units are generated through 3 different BMR programs, and most of the BMR units that we are offered are part of the inclusionary housing program governed by the San Francisco Planning Code. Under the Planning Code, private developers of new residential project that contains 10 or more units are required to pay an affordable housing fee or provide on-site or off-site units that is affordable to low to moderate income household. Therefore, you can see BMR homes everywhere in San Francisco. They are scattered, and a lot of them in high-rise luxury towers. Therefore, there are specific units in San Francisco, and typically those units are condos. When a new BMR unit enters our housing portfolio, our office calculates the initial sales price based on what is affordable to eligible buyers, and the monthly HOA dues are part of the calculation. At the time of resale, they are also resold at below market rate prices to future buyers. And this is how the program is able to create permanently affordable homeownership opportunities for many generations of first-time home buyers in San Francisco. In other words, when you buy, it's affordable to the next buyer in the same way it was affordable for you. Next. So what are the eligibility requirements? Because the program is intended to create affordable homeownership opportunities to first-time home buyers. The first eligibility requirement is that applicants must be first-time home buyer, which means no ownership interest in a residential unit during the past 3 years from the date of application. This requirement applies to every member of the household. The household can be an individual or any group of people who intends to live together in the BMR unit. BMR units are subject to occupancy requirements. The BMR owners must occupy the property as their primary residence. Renting any portion of the BMR units is not permitted. Also, the household size must be compatible to the unit size. That is a minimum of 1 person per bedroom. In other words, a 1-person household can purchase up to a 1-bedroom unit, and a 2-person household can purchase up to a 2-bedroom unit. However, if a 2-person household only wants to buy a 1-bedroom unit, then that's fine, but the 2-person household cannot buy a BMR unit with more than 2 bedrooms. There are income restrictions. Total household income must meet the income limits designated on the BMR units. Each BMR unit has its own sales price and income limits, and they are set according to Area Median Income AMI, which we will talk more in the next slide. There is no access test, there is no access limits to qualify for a BMR unit. However, there is access test, which is part of the household income calculation. To apply for any BMR listings, the applicants must have completed 10 hours of home buy education through a city-sponsored housing counseling agency and secure a first mortgage loan pre-approval from one of most city-approved lenders. Next. Here's the income table for Area Median Income AMI, ranging from 80% to 120%. AMI means median income as published by MoCD using data from Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD on an annual basis for the San Francisco area, adjusted solely for household size, but not high housing cost. When look at the income table to find the household income limits associated with a certain AMI percentage, you would first look down the left column to find the AMI percentage. Then follow the row across until you find the number of people in your household, which is your household size. So for example, if a BMR unit has income limits at 100% AMI, to qualify for that unit, a 4-person household can make no more than $138,550. Next. Now let's look at the rules around resale and inheritance. BMR units must be sold through MoCD resale procedures at restricted resale price based on the resale pricing formula disclosed at the time of purchase and calculated by MoCD at the time of resale. Just like a market rate unit, the condition of the property make a difference in resale. It is owner's responsibility to maintain the BMR units in a good physical condition. A limited amount of eligible capital improvement made 10 years after the unit was originally occupied may be added to the resale price. And HOA special assessment can also be added to the resale price at a depreciation rate of 7% per year. After MoCD calculates the resale price, the owner or the owner's real estate agent then work with MoCD to get the units posted on our housing portal, Dahlia. And during the application period, the applicants who submitted a complete application will be placed in a lottery. After the lottery, MoCD will process the application by lottery rank. Not only does the BMR homeowner benefit from affordable housing payment and potential tax credits, BMR owner can also build equity. Limited equity is not same as zero equity. MoCD does not guarantee that homeowner will gain equity on the unit upon resale. However, long-term homeowner tends to gain appreciation on their unit. One of the most common questions being asked is, can I pass my BMR units to my child or to my beneficiary? So here's the thing. If and when all the BMR owners deceased, a child of a BMR owner may inherit the rights to occupy the units if he or she meets the program requirements. However, if the child does not meet the program requirements, or they don't want to use the BMR as their primary residence, then the BMR units must be resold to the next buyer through the program. The child will be entitled to the entire proceeds of the sale. Next. Now let's look at the lottery and the BMR lottery preferences. The lotteries are run electronically and each applicant is randomly assigned with a lottery rank. Applicants who has a lottery preference will have a better chance to win in the lottery. Each project may have different lottery preferences available, so always check the listing to find out what preferences would apply to each specific project. Here on my slides are the most common BMR lottery preferences. As you will see first, which is the first and highest preference, is a certificate of preference that was issued by the former San Francisco Redevelopment Agency to displaced tenants in Western Addition and Bayview Hunters Point in 1960s and 70s, the certificate preference holders are eligible for 100% of the affordable units in the project. The second highest preference is Displaced Tenants Housing Preference issued by MoCD. Displaced tenants certificate holders are the tenants who were evicted through Ellis Act eviction or owner moving eviction, or have been displaced by fire, or have expiring affordability restriction make their current San Francisco affordable housing no longer affordable. The DTHP preference holders are eligible for up to 20% of the affordable unit in the project. The third preference is Neighborhood Residence Housing Preference, which given to any member of the household who live in the supervisor district of the project or within half-mile buffer of the project. The neighborhood preference holders are eligible for 40% of the affordable units. The displaced tenants and the neighborhood preference only apply to a project with 5 or more affordable units, and neighborhood preference only apply to new development. The last preference, which mostly the applicants would qualify for, is the live-work preference. Any applicant's household with at least one member who lives in San Francisco or work for at least 75% of their working hours in San Francisco would qualify for this preference. The applicant's household who do not hold any lottery preference will be placed in the general. If the number of available units exceeds the number of qualified applicants in the lottery preferences, then the units will become available to qualified applicants outside of San Francisco. I'm going to turn it over to Nick to talk about how to apply for a BMR unit. Thank you.
Thank you, Sissy. So as you can see on the screen there, there's a website that you want to make a note of, www.housing.sfgov.org. Okay, this takes you to what we call Dahlia San Francisco Housing Portal. And this is where all the information is for below market rate units, whether they're for rent or to purchase. So one thing we always recommend you do is, as you can see, and there's a bottom box that says sign up today. You will be notified when a below market rate opportunity becomes available. So you want to go through that link, enter in your name and email, and that way you will get information when a property is available and all the details regarding that property, the location, the size, the income limit requirement, obviously the price, the home association. So all of the details will come through in the listings that you will receive once you register for email alerts. So this is what you want to remember, housing.sfgov.org, and also set yourself up for email alert. Next slide, please. So I did just cover this. There are properties that you will be notified of that are either first come, first serve. There's also city second listings, which are not below market rate. They're actually open market properties that you will learn about later when you decide to move forward with our orientation course. But there are different listings. First come, first serve means that you do not have to go through a lottery. That means that a previous lottery was exhausted. So now anyone can apply for this property. And there are properties that have a lottery coming up. So there are some requirements that you do need to fulfill before you can apply for a property. Okay, so just keep in mind there's different types of properties. First come, first serve, ones with lotteries, and also properties under the city's second loan program. Once the lottery results have been posted, you will be able to see them with each individual listing, so you will see what your ranking is for each individual property. Next slide, please. So what are the steps to apply for these units? Well, you do need to complete 10 hours of education. This includes 2 hours of an orientation course, 6 hours of workshops, and one-on-one counseling session with a counselor, okay? So that's the requirement for you to move forward for below market rate units or city second properties as well, okay? Now, as you can see here for step number 2, you will be required to have a pre-approval letter from Mayor of Housing San Francisco approved lender. So if you go to this link that we've provided, the city continuously updates this list with lenders that are approved. They also go through training with the city, so they're familiar with the programs and the guidelines. So once you complete your education and you find a property that you're interested in, we recommend you contact one of the approved lenders to be pre-approved before you can apply for a lottery or before you can submit an application for a first come, first served below market rate unit, okay? And applications will be submitted through the portal, through the Mayor of Housing. So this is the link that you will go through when you are ready, when you've completed step 1 and step 2, the education and the pre-approval, you'll be able to submit your application online directly to Mayor of Housing for their pre-approval. Next slide, please. So this is really important to understand the actual requirements, those 10 hours that I discussed. So your first step will be to complete 2 hours of orientation course. And the link where we list there at the bottom where it says register at, if you click on that link, it'll give you the upcoming dates that are available for this orientation. And the purpose of this orientation is to introduce you to what San Francisco offers for first-time home buyers. After you complete the orientation, if you decide you want to continue with the education, you will pick one of the 5 agencies to work with, and you will complete a workshop with them. Some have cost for their workshop, some have free options. Some will be available online, some will be available in person in a classroom setting. So there's different options for that workshop, but it is a 6-hour workshop requirement. And after step 2, like I said, whichever agency you complete the workshops with, you will stay with that agency and schedule a one-on-one counseling session with a housing counselor in that agency. And again, some of these sessions can be face-to-face or online, depending on the availability and the requirements of the particular agency. So the first step is to go to Homeownership SF website and see the listing of upcoming orientations, and you can register right from their site for the orientation that works for you. And there is no cost to attend the orientation, and they are also offered in other languages, which will be specified under the Homeownership SF listing. All right, next slide, please. All right, so This is the list where you will find approved lenders that go through the training. As you can see, the link there is sfmohcd.org/lender list. Okay, and as you go through this list, you will see on the right there are columns that specify BMR, DALP, MCC. These abbreviations may not mean anything to you at this point, which is okay, but we just want you to be comfortable with knowing what it's going to look like. And for you folks that pick specific programs, you will see, just make sure that whichever lender you contact has a check mark under the program that you are interested in. Okay, so again, you have to work with an approved lender if you're going to move forward with purchasing one of the first-time homebuyer programs in San Francisco. Next slide, please. All right, so at this point, what I'd like to do is introduce you to Josie Ramirez. Josie, please take over.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you this evening to share some information that I hope will be helpful to you on your path to home ownership. So before we start talking about pre-approvals, I want to just explain that there's a big difference between getting pre-qualified and pre-approved. For a pre-approval, lenders have to verify all of your financial documents versus for a pre-qualification, lenders just go by whatever you tell the lender. So the bank I represent is Silicon Valley Bank, and it does not issue pre-qualification letters. We only issue pre-approval letters. And also, I'll remind you that CD requires pre-approval letters as well. So I know sometimes it can be a bit daunting, but we do need all the documentation noted on this slide. The good news is most of what we need is also the same documentation that MoCD requires. So what I often suggest to my clients is to create a folder on your computer and save all your documents there, because that way they're easy to find, and you can update them as you receive new pay stubs and new bank statements, because you'll find as you go through this process, you'll have to provide those updated documents. So let's go through some of these financial documents that are needed. We need the 3 years of most recent federal income tax returns. Please note, we do not need state tax returns, only federal. We will ask that you sign and date those documents as well, and include all schedules, W-2s, any attachments of schedules or forms that are related to it, 1099s, whatever. We also need 3 consecutive and most recent bank statements for all asset accounts. That includes liquid and retirement accounts. We need all pages, even if the page is blank. I know sometimes, people don't send the blank pages, but we also need those. We also need 3 consecutive and most recent pay stubs for those that are wage earners. If you happen to be self-employed, we need a profit and loss statement for the current year. Essentially, we need documentation for all income and assets and credit. So we will run a credit report as well, but that's something you don't have to personally provide. We just need your permission to run the credit report. Some lenders require your current lease and documentation of 3 most recent months of rent payments. I say most because we do not. But again, each lender has its own requirements and documentations list. If you are receiving gift funds from a family member, then the gift letter with the donor's bank statement will also be required. And I'll just say that, again, each lender will provide you a list of all the documents they will need in order to work on your pre-approval, besides receiving a complete loan application. Typically, they'll send you a link. Nowadays, everything is electronic. So typically, they will send you a link to apply online and upload your documents through a secure portal. I want to offer a little tip here, though, because it's something we encounter. Please allow sufficient time well in advance to submit an application and all your support documents prior to the due date of the application. You'll want to check with the lenders to see if they have the capacity to take on your pre-approval request and that there's sufficient time before the actual due date. Next slide, please. So once the lender has received your loan application and all the financial documents, they can start crunching the numbers and determine how much you can afford. Each lender has its own underwriting guidelines and eligibility criteria, and that will determine how much of a loan you can receive. Lenders calculate your estimated monthly housing payment, which includes your mortgage loan payment, your property taxes, your condo insurance or HO6 insurance, and HOA dues. Altogether, if the lender charges PMI, PMI will also be included in that housing cost total. They divide the total by your gross monthly income to get what's referred to as your housing cost debt to income ratio. Again, each lender has its own guidelines that establishes what the maximum housing debt to income ratio can be. Most often, and it's not always, each lender has its own, but I would say that typically it's within the range of about 38% of your gross monthly income to 43%. Please note that MoCD also has its own maximum debt to income ratios and its guidelines. So we have to ensure that your ratios fall within both of these guidelines. Lenders also calculate what's called the back-end debt to income ratio, which is calculated by adding all your other monthly payments that show up on your credit report to the total housing cost we just referred to. They combine the two, add them up, and then again divide it by your gross income, and that will give you what's called the back-end debt to income ratio. The range for that is typically around 43 to 48%, but again, I'll note that each lender has its own guidelines regarding that. These calculations will determine how much the bank will lend you and consequently what your maximum purchase price is, depending on how much you're able to put down, including any down payment assistance programs that you may be eligible for. In addition to its own guidelines and debt ratios, each lender has its own program eligibility requirements or criteria as well, such as what the maximum income limit is, the credit score, what the max loan amount might be, and etc. A good lender will guide you and offer you a few scenarios different based on different, for example, down payment amount. If you put X instead of Y, this is how much your monthly payment will be. Also, another option might be to compare, should I pay discount points to lower the rate or not? So, like I said, a good lender will give you those different loan scenarios for you to compare and make a good decision that's based on your best interest. Last, you should know that a pre-approval is not a final loan approval and therefore not a guarantee that you will get a loan. Your financial circumstances may change from time to time, and from the time you receive a pre-approval to the time you actually enter into a purchase contract, and MOCHD still has to issue its final approval, which is a condition of your final loan approval. So basically, I want to point out that when a pre-approval letter is issued, it's not a good idea for you to subsequently go out and take out new debt, such as buying a car or opening up more credit cards, because that will likely not make you eligible, even though you were eligible before. So try to keep your finances the same as at the time you were pre-approved to the time you actually enter into a purchase contract. Next slide, please. Okay, so I know there's a lot of different terms and numbers and ratios that I've mentioned, and I don't expect you to learn all of that. As Nikita mentioned before, there's a lot of acronyms and terminology that we use in the mortgage industry. In fact, I often tell people that I know 4 languages. I speak English, I speak Spanish, my husband's Turkish, so I've learned Turkish along the way, and I speak mortgage. Okay, a little humor. That said, my goal tonight is to just share some general information and help you understand what a lender does to determine how much of a loan amount and purchase price that you qualify for. A pre-approval letter will note how much the lender has determined that you qualify for based on certain conditions that you have to meet. One of those conditions is the city's final approval. So most pre-approval letters are valid for 120 days and can be renewed if they are soon to expire. So please note that a pre-approval letter must be dated within the last 120 days, and it must be from an approved MOHCD lender and submitted with your BMR application to MOCD. The letter can be updated, like I said, in case it's soon to expire, or if anything has changed. If you have, for instance, gotten a promotion or change of jobs, or something different has changed since your pre-approval, you can contact the lender to get an update. This is very applicable right now in a rising interest rate environment like we're living in. Please check in with your lender more frequently because you may have been pre-approved at a lower rate, assumption, and then now that the rates are higher, they may have to readjust your pre-approval. As you know, last Wednesday, the Feds increased the Fed rate by 3/4 of a point, and subsequently rates went up. Any changes in your financial situation will impact your future pre-approval. So that's why it's important to note that if there's any changes, let your lender know. Let's see what else. I think that's it on that slide. So we can go to the next one. Here's the juicy part that everyone is interested, I think, and that's the down payment assistance. So these, before I go into them, I really want to make sure I stress that the down payment assistance programs have eligibility criteria, such as maximum income limits and DTI ratios, or debt to income ratios. Most of them are need-based and may have some form of repayment. So those are things to be aware of. Others, like the WISH program, are forgivable after 5 years. SVB also offers a program like the WISH program that's forgivable after 5 years. So those are your better options if you can qualify for them. Again, there is income eligibility, and some of them are need-based. So let's start with the city's BMR DALP program, okay? It is, like I said, a need-based down payment assistance loan, and ultimately the Mayor's Office of Housing will be the ones who determine how much is needed. There is no monthly payments required. Instead, you will share appreciation or equity at the time you sell the property. And again, MoCD is the one who determines how much the resale price will be. In addition, I want to further note that the BMR DALP applications for eligible BMR buyers are accepted on a first come, first served basis and are always subject to funding being available. So please check the MoCD website for the program balances. So in addition to the city's BMR DALP program, there are other assistance that we can use to layer and help you qualify for a loan. Like we just spoke, the WISH is one of those programs offered by the San Francisco Federal Home Loan Bank. And it is offered through participating members or lenders, of which SVB is one. So there is a 4-to-1 match. It is a 4-to-1 matching grant up to $22,000 per household. And what that means is, in order to get the $22,000 full amount, you must contribute at least $5,500 to the transaction, because $5,500 times 4 adds up to $22,000. There is an income cap. As I noted before, income eligibility is 80% of the HUD AMI, area median income, based on your household size. So as your size gets larger or bigger, then the income eligibility increases. Off the top of my head, for San Francisco County, for a one-person household, the income max or cap at 80% of HUD AMI is about $104,000. So, and it goes up as your family size increases. It is available on a first come, first served basis until funds run out. As a member, we get notified how much wish funds is available. And as of yesterday, we were notified it is $1.8 million remain. It started out at about 11 million. So at this run rate, we'll probably be done with this probably within the next couple of months. But it does renew every year. So around March or April, funds again will be available. Again, it's available on a first come, first served basis until funds run out. It is forgivable after 5 years if the borrower still remains and occupies the property as its primary residence. There's also lender credits that can be used toward the down payment and closing costs. And let's see, I think that's it for this slide. Oh, and I'm done. So is there, is somebody, Nikita, you want to talk about the Resource Fair and Help Center?
Absolutely. Josie, thank you so much. Appreciate all of your input.
You're welcome.
And I also would like to thank Sissy and Homeownership SF and also our interpreters today. So as you can see, this Saturday, October 1st from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., the Resource Fair and Help Center will be available as part of the expo. So you can find more information on the homeownership website, okay, as far as information, but it is a really good resource. Different counseling agencies will be represented by counselors to discuss different topics and answer questions. So speaking of questions, it looks like Sissy was helping us in the chat room. Sissy or anyone else, is there anything in chat that has been brought up that we would like to answer for folks? And for you participants, this is a good time to post any questions there. So let's go ahead and do that now. Sissy, are you available to?
Yeah, sure. So I saw that we got another question, and the question is, what about CAL HFA? Can it be used for BMR units? That's a very good question, but the answer is unfortunately that cannot be used for the BMR unit. It's more is the CalFHA, they have their program restrictions, and to use their loans, they require themselves to be in the lien position that would be conflicting with our requirements.
Thank you. And while you're thinking of any other questions, I do have a question that's commonly asked by our clients for Josie.
Okay.
And Josie, the question is, when the clients complete the 10 hours of education, specifically folks that are interested in BMRs, do you recommend that they request a general pre-approval? In other words, if they don't have a specific BMR in mind, or do you recommend for them to wait until they find a specific BMR that they're interested in and request a pre-approval for that particular property?
Well, because everything is time sensitive, as we mentioned, you know, a pre-approval letter is only good for 120 days. So as time goes by, you know, if you don't find something in those 120 days, then we have to do a new pre-approval, right? It's easier than the first time because we have most of your financial documents, but we will need to refresh your file and request updated bank statements and pay stubs. But if you are okay, you know, doing it twice or 3 times, however often it might need, you can go for a general one, and just to kind of get a feel for how much you're qualified for.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So Looks like we have another question. Will each agency offer each of us the 2-hour orientation as well as the 6-hour workshop and the 2-hour counseling session? So it's a very good question. Homeownership SF lists the orientations, and you can attend any one of those. They're hosted by different agencies throughout the month. After you complete that orientation, you can choose any of the agencies to move forward to do your workshop with, okay? And that agency that you complete the workshop with, you have to do the one-on-one session with that agency, okay? And that certificate that you will receive after completing the 10 hours will be good for 1 year, but to renew it, you will only need to do a one-on-one counseling session again a year from now. And if you want to renew it 2 years from now and so forth, we'll explain the rules, but basically be prepared to take the workshops every 2 years and a one-on-one counseling session every year to maintain a valid certificate. And if you have already done the 10 hours, when will that expire? Do you have to repeat the 10 hours again? So I think I just covered that question, but if you have any if it still isn't clear, the counselor that you will work with will break it down even further. But I'm hoping it's I cleared that up as far as the 10-hour requirement. Is there any other questions? All right. Well, again, lastly, I just want to say you learned some information today that if it was a little complicated or you didn't quite grasp, that's okay. This is just an introduction. You will go through many more steps to receive more clarification, to give you an opportunity to ask questions, whether it's in a classroom setting or a one-on-one. So please don't feel like you need to be an expert on what you learned today. And also remember that this presentation is being recorded and it will be on YouTube at a later date, so you can review it again. Or if you want to introduce it to friends or family, coworkers that you think may appreciate learning about this program, they will be able to access that as well. So again, for those of you folks moving forward, Homeownership SF will list the orientation dates coming up, and that'll be your next step. All right, let's see. So the one-on-one assistance will be available with the counseling agency where you complete your workshop. So yes, you will have a resource with the counselor, and not only in the initial steps to get you the certificate, but they should also act as a coach for you moving forward to answer your questions, help you with applications and so forth. So you will definitely have a lot of assistance to you through your counselor. All right. Okay, so just posted by Homeownership SF, there will be over 50 different exhibitor tables from city agencies, nonprofit housing services, and industry experts, and it is free, and free is capitalized. So spread the word to anyone and everyone. This will be a really, really great resource. You'll meet a lot of good people, gather a lot of information. You don't want to miss that this Saturday.
See you there.
All right. So with that being said, it doesn't look like there's any other questions. Again, a huge thank you to Homeownership SF, to Sissy and Josie, and our group of interpreters today that were really, really helpful. So we will see you all on Saturday, and we hope to see you at orientations, workshops, and our one-on-one meetings.
Thank you,
very much.
Nikita. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.